Okay, we're scheduled to start in about a minute or two, and since two of the four of you are here, I think we should just give it maybe an extra minute or two. So figure 2 or 3 minutes and we'll start. Does that make sense?
Sure.
Sure.
Okay.
Happy.
How many questions are there?
1,000.
Tanya,
They're all yes or no questions.
Multiple choice.
no, Tanya, are you going to explain that on the timekeeper? I'm going to tell you when there's 10 seconds left. 30
You guys,
seconds.
I got this whole script. Don't you worry about a thing.
Okay.
Six.
Yeah.
6, but give a couple minutes
Mm-hmm.
in case they have difficulty signing on. There's Ronnie. Okay. So we're going to just use first names.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So when we begin the questioning, we'll probably going to use first names, if that's okay with everybody. It's a little more informal, but I think it leads to a more conversational kind of tone.
We'll call you Mr. Gross, though.
That's okay. That's okay.
I like to be referred to as Your Highness, so please keep that in mind.
Okay, I think we can get started. Tanya, you want to do the...
Okay, so we're missing a candidate though, right?
We are.
Okay.
Us, but he can join at any time.
Well, we should give him a 2 minutes, 3 minutes grace period, and then we'll go.
Okay.
Yeah.
Does anyone have a specific time commitment after this that we should be aware of?
No, we were on a Zoom the other day for 2 hours.
Oh, no, we won't be that long.
It looks like Gus just joined, so I think everybody who's RSVP'd has joined. Is that correct?
I don't see Gus yet.
He's here. Hey, Gus. Gus is muted,
Okay,
but he is here.
Right.
Okay, so I think we're good to go. Saul,
There we go.
Ron?
Okay, go ahead, Tanya.
Okay, good evening, everybody out there in TV and video land. My name is Tanya Bott, and on behalf of the Board of Directors of Miami Beach United, I'd like to welcome you to tonight's Mayoral Candidate Forum. If you missed our forum on September 14 for groups 1 and 3, you can find the video on our website and on our Facebook page if Facebook ever comes back online. If you are hearing about this after the fact, we will have this video for tonight's forum posted on our website, as is the video from the September 14th forum. Please note, if you're looking at the original forum, there's a small technical recording glitch, so the sound doesn't kick in until about a minute has elapsed, but the entire forum was in fact recorded with audio and video, so you won't have missed anything. It just looks a little weird in the first minute. As you know, MBU is the only community-based nonprofit organization providing Miami Beach residents a cohesive voice for citywide issues which impact their quality of life. We are an all-volunteer group and rely on memberships to help fund events like these, which are always free and open to the public, via Zoom for now, unfortunately, as well as other forums on relevant topics affecting neighbors across the city. In fact, our next forum is this Wednesday, in which we will have leaders of the South Florida tech community sitting down in conversation with Miami-Dade County Mayor Levine Cava, Miami Mayor Francis Suarez, and Miami Beach Mayor Dan Gelber to discuss closer collaboration to bring more great tech jobs to South Florida and why doing so matters. It will be a great conversation. It's important for our collective communities, and we look forward to seeing you all there via Zoom as well. When things return to normal, we will look forward to hosting members-only social gathering at cool spots around the city as we have for the last few years, and they're great. If you enjoy our newsletter, please tell your friends to sign up to receive them. If you support our work or want to come to these really fun social gatherings when things open back up safely, please consider our membership, which, if you sign up now, will not only cover the rest of this year for 2021, but all of 2022 as well. And for $25, that is a bargain at twice the price. So not only has a lot changed since we set out the save the date, but a lot has changed in the past couple of weeks. We will no longer be having a forum for the Group 2 candidates as we had anticipated, as Commissioner Samuelin's challenger was ruled ineligible. In the mayoral race, one candidate failed to qualify. 5 candidates remain in the field. We sent out an invitation to each of them to join us tonight, and we welcome the 4 candidates who responded. As we are a citywide organization, these forums are created to ask the candidates about issues which may affect all of us. To that end, we have gathered questions from members and, together with input from the board, have sought to craft them in a manner that will illuminate how each candidate thinks about the issue. The format will be as follows. Each candidate will be given 60 seconds for an opening statement. Each candidate will then have the opportunity, each candidate will have an opportunity to be the first to answer a question at least once. The candidate has up to 90 seconds to answer the question, and the moderators may, at his discretion, ask a follow-up question. In addition to the group of MBU directors who put this forum together, including Maria de Souza, Herb Frank, and Adam Kravitz, Gayle Durham is our timekeeper. So please keep your eye on Gayle's image on the screen and listen for the little hotel bell that will ding when your time is up. While these introductions don't begin to do them justice, let me now introduce our moderators and turn it over to them to get this party started. Saul Gross, our returning champ, was pioneer in restoring Art Deco buildings in the Flamingo Park neighborhood and a 2-term commissioner in the city of Miami Beach. A civic activist for the last decade, Ron Starkman, our neophyte, has been on the board of MBU for 5 years and is our VP for Government Affairs. He has been the past president and remains on the board for SOFNA and was the former chairman of and remains a member of the City of Miami Beach's Budget Advisory Committee. Without further ado, gentlemen, take it away.
Okay, thank you very much, Tanya. Just a little more on the logistics. When we ask questions, we're going to alternate who is going to answer them first. So we'll call out the name of the person who will answer them first. As I said before, we'd like to use first names if that's okay with everybody, since it's a little more informal and more conversational, which is the tone that we're looking for here. So the first question I'm going to ask to the candidates who have not held public office before. In giving your, it's not really a question, but I want to give you the opportunity to make your introduction. But when you do, please take a minute to explain why you feel you're qualified to serve as the mayor of Miami Beach and give us some specific examples of what you've done to improve the quality of life for residents in your work in the community up until this point. So we'll start with Gus, and then go to Jean Marie, and then to Ronnie on this question. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. My name is Gus Meneses, and I've been a local for approximately a little under 30 years right now. My grandfather was here in the late 30s, and my father was brought here in the 50s. So I could pretty much say 3rd generation local. I was born in the Bronx, 1971. I come from a good Greek American family, and between my business and my experience in being able to actually build a business improvement district, also create a chamber of commerce up in White Plains, and also follow that all the way down to Fort Lauderdale with George Gretches, which was the city manager at the time. My business sense and also the love of my community, I know I would be an awesome mayor as well. Just some things that you actually see in a different point of view, since I lived in different cities and also worked with different city managers, especially in Fort Lauderdale, Homestead, Oakland Park, and Tamarack, as well as when I started up in White Plains, New York, when I owned my 2 diners. My profession when I first started was I owned restaurants and diners up in New York. I sold my businesses and then created a property management company, which I sold in 2012, and always been in property management since then.
Okay, thanks.
That's who I am.
Okay, let's move on to Jean Marie.
Hi, I'm Jean Marie Echemendia, and I'm running for mayor of Miami Beach. I've lived here for more than 25 years on North Bay Road. I'm a homeowner and I have 2 daughters. I'm running for mayor because what's going on in Miami Beach is a complete disgrace. We have a current mayor that favors his donor developers over residents. He looks the other way to rising violent crime and drug use on our beautiful streets and beaches. When politicians look the other way, allowing crime to run rampant, they pretend to solve the problems in the community by tearing down small buildings and historic buildings and businesses and selling public land for cheap. Typically, they approve massive towers that happen to be built by the biggest developers in town, who are also coincidentally their donors. By the way, to name a few, I have 25 pages of Dan Gilbert's donors right here. You can also find them on my website at www.voteechemendia.com under the Dan Donor button. Dan Gilbert is working for his big ticket donors instead of for us, the residents. For me, residents are #1 and will always be #1. I will work for the residents. I'm not a career politician and I'm not backed by any special interest group. I only want to make Miami Beach better than ever, safer and beautiful for our families. We need to bring our fabulous Miami Beach now, before it's ravaged by crime and before it's too late. The future is now and it's time for a change. Thank you for giving me this opportunity to speak with you all in this MBU forum. I currently serve on the North Bay Road Homeowners Association and am extremely active in the community.
Okay, thank you very much. And now to Ronnie.
Well, I wish I could just photocopy what Jean Marie just said and put it in my own voice. I'm sure there's an app for that, but my name is Ronnie Eith. I'm running for mayor of Miami Beach. I'm a native New Yorker who moved down here 9 years ago. And honestly, you know, I don't think that anybody that's running is going to say too many things that are different. We all are sick of the crime. We're all, to me, I've been here for 9 years and I'm really embarrassed by the fact that we're consistently on not only the local news, but we're on the national news and the international news seemingly over and over again for the same exact things. And the solutions to these problems, you know, sometimes the most complex of problems have the simplest of solutions. I believe that I'm qualified to run and that I'll be a great mayor because I have a track record of success. Everything I've done, I've typically been successful at, from working at the highest levels of executive leadership at Citibank to, you know, being a father, to being a family member, to being a member of the community. I think the other thing that makes me unique is that I do spend a lot of time on Lincoln Road. I do spend a lot of time on Ocean Drive. I'm very intimate with, you know, what goes on there, which places are the problem places. I can walk, I bravely walk up and down the street without any police escort, and I see what's going on, and I point out the things that are going on and what the solutions are. And no matter what side of the aisle you're on, no matter who you're going to support for commissioner or whatever, I believe we all want the same things. We want to change the culture in Miami Beach. We want to change the crime rate in Miami Beach, and we want to make Miami Beach not to steal another person's political model, but we do want to make Miami Beach great. We want people to be proud to come to Miami Beach, and we want them to return back to wherever they live after coming here on vacation, enjoying themselves, and brag about the first-in-class service that they received and how amazing, you know, the culture is on the beach, and that's missing right now. So I firmly believe that if we clean up the beach, the rest of it will happen.
Thank you, Ronnie. Your time is up. Dan, you can give your introduction, and rather than saying what you've done before you served in office, you can say what you've done since you've been in office if you'd like, or, you know, I'll leave the introduction to you.
Thanks. Thank you. You know, Miami Beach is the only home I've ever known. And I appreciate that everybody talks about and hurls these accusations at me, I'm not going to respond in kind because I think our city deserves a civil discussion. Question really is just who's prepared to deal with these challenges? I can tell you that as a federal prosecutor in this community for a decade, I understand crime and safety. I don't think anybody can righteously say I haven't put forward and in fact got quite a bit of it passed, lots of different ideas. I'll put in the chat 12-point plan I put together some time ago, which includes increased policing and includes more code, and we've gotten both those things happening. But I just think, this concept that I'm some kind of, politician. I've spent 60 years in this community. I want this community to do well. I went to schools here where my mom taught. I want my kids to not simply flourish here, but to want to raise their families here. I'm a resident like everybody else, and I'm offended by the crime and disorder, which is why most of the major efforts have been ones that I pushed forward. I haven't won them all, and I want to know what everybody thinks of the 2 a.m. rollback and some of the other ideas. But I believe this is a great community, which is why I've done all I can to increase our parks, to make it more of an art and cultural area, so that it is a place that allows for those connections. I don't think this is the time to just hurl accusations at people. I'd like to hear what these folks say they're going to do, other than just say, disparaging things about me. We live in a great city, and we all love it. So let's act that way.
Okay, thank you, Dan.
Okay, thank you. So our first question, we're going to allow 60 seconds for this one. Some questions we'll give you 90, but I think this one is best handled in about 60 seconds. Miami Beach United has a history of advocating for greater resident access to and involvement with city government. In your view, are there adequate measures in place to ensure that residents are aware of actions that may affect them and that their voices are heard? If not, what additional measures would you propose? And as mayor, how would you make commission meetings run efficiently while allowing for sufficient resident participation? Okay, Jean, I'd like you to up first on this one.
Yes, I think that the city does really involve the residents. I wish that there was a better system though. They've changed the online a couple years ago and it just hasn't been the same. I find it challenging to work with. I also think that perhaps, we can get things in the mail because not everyone uses online. So in a way it is fair. You do open the forum to residents, but it's residents that only have access to internet and computer, and that's not always the case. How would I get the commission to not be so long-winded? Sometimes, yeah, they argue up there for a while. I would maybe say, wrap it up, guys. I mean, I'm not a politician, so I know I have a lot to learn, but I know that I can definitely help the city for the better.
Thank you, Jean. Ronnie, you're up next.
So I think that it's interesting because I've been to quite a few commission meetings, and it doesn't seem like there's a lot of people that are typically attending. And there's, we need to do a better job of reaching out, of making people aware of when the meetings are, really engaging them to come and attend the meeting or to attend online if they have the capability. Just about everybody has a smartphone. If you have a smartphone, you have the capability to attend the meeting, right? You don't need to have a computer. You don't need to have a tablet. You have a smartphone, boom, you can be in the meeting. As far as making the meetings go quicker, I think that, sticking to a format and having, having specific, stringent time limits that people are allowed to speak for, that will work the best. However, let's face it, like this is a big city. We have a lot of issues that need to be addressed at every single meeting. So the meetings aren't going to be over in an hour or two. The meetings are going to go for a long period of time if we really want to get things accomplished.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Ronnie. Dan?
I think the city does a pretty good job at reaching out to residents. The Citizens' Right to Know, which I know MBU very much supported in its inception, I think added to that. We have a wonderful magazine, MB Magazine, which allows you to look at things in depth. And if you go to our website, there's a lot of ways you can find out what's happening. In terms of the way I run meetings, I have like a sort of simple belief. People have a right to be heard. So they're long. They're sometimes 12 hours or longer. I try not to stop people from speaking or give them real limits. Sometimes dozens of people want to speak on an issue and they repeat themselves, and I tend to let them do it. My colleagues, I think, would like me to cut people off. We have about an hour during each meeting, half hour in the morning, half hour in the afternoon, where it's sort of an open mic. I also give out my cell phone to every single person in the city and every email. I just put it in the chat here, 305-345-7879. I'll take a call, I'll take a text. If there's something on your mind that's important to you, then it should be important to me. And I would appreciate you reaching out, because you shouldn't run for this job if you're not prepared to hear from people all day long and all night long, frankly, because sometimes that happens too.
Thank you, Dan. Gus, what do you think?
Oh, you know what? I'm gonna have to agree. I'm gonna have to agree with Dan on certain things. What I do see is, yeah, we actually do need to post in more public viewing areas. You know, maybe commissioners could step up the postings in their district. I was thinking even to be able to flash it next to our World Symphony that's on Washington there, where we do the outdoor theaters. Just a thought, maybe we could flash the meeting over there. Just simple things like that on the time. But basically, I was thinking more of let's use our TV stations, the Deco Drive TV that we have, or maybe Miami Beach United. If I'm not mistaken, there's another local TV station that we have that we could actually post it up there. That's basically it. But what I do see is definitely they put it in the magazine. I see it going on flyers. I see it posted in condominiums. I see it on my phone as well, and also on my emails. So I see that the city has been doing its job to actually let the people know that there is a meeting coming in. Now, for the length of them, that's hard. I mean, this city is going through a lot right now, and it's kind of hard to be able just to do a meeting within 3 hours. We have so much, and again, I know what mayors go through. I'm not going to sit here.
Gus, speaking
Yes.
of getting things done within time. Okay.
Actually, I was thinking maybe we could cut it off at 11 p.m. You know, some of us do have to get home to our wives and girlfriends, you know, so.
Okay, we're going to go on to the next question. And we'll let Dan answer this question first. Residents are growing more concerned with the increase in violence and crime in our community, particularly in the South Beach Entertainment District. What specific measures do you support? Have you included in the budget for the safety of the residents? And there was a question that someone chatting on the side, I guess, who's watching, said that the new budget only includes 2 additional police officers. So if you could respond in general, but address that as well. So that question is answered.
So for the last decade or longer, the entertainment district has really deteriorated. After the pandemic, it got even worse, but it's never been good. And before I was mayor and since I've been mayor, it's been horrible. To me, I just think we cannot sustain an entertainment district. We cannot sustain a hard party 24-hour zone. I think it belittles the city, it cheapens who we are, and it creates scenarios and that we're just bad for our visitors, our residents, and frankly, our cops. In terms of the budget, when I became mayor, we had, I think, 390 police. We're going to have 434 or 5 next year. So the budget has an increase of dozens of police officers, more than we have. I've increased policing dramatically. Sometimes it feels like an encampment during these high impact weekends. We've gone after the BTRs through multiple ways to try to get them to stop. We've increased our code officers dramatically also, and in fact, put in a code of conduct. Right now, we're probably going to get rid of the big drinks and hookah that are on Ocean Drive. We've done dozens of different efforts to try to control this area, and the arrest level in this area is incredibly high. We arrest more people in this city per capita than most of the 34 cities in Dade County. So the point is that I think we just have to convert this area into a live, work, play area. We just got to do it. And I didn't want to pick a fight with wealthy bar owners who can support other people, but I think it's the right thing to do. So I'm not afraid to bring it. So I hope everybody supports me on this, and I hope you vote for the 2 a.m. rollback on November 2nd.
All right, thank you. We're going to get into all those questions. Jean Marie, what are your thoughts? And tell us if you think increasing the police force is the main thing, or if you have other ideas.
Well, I think a lot can be done to help the situation. I think first and foremost, crime frequently happens in desolate areas. And I think that Ocean Drive closed off has created it, you know, a magnet for crime. I don't think it's the stores on Ocean Drive or the bars or anything. It's because it's not open to traffic. I think it needs to be open to traffic. I think the parklets have to be removed because those are very honky tonk and nobody should be sitting in the middle of a street to eat or drink. I think we definitely need more police on foot and on ATVs. We need zero tolerance. We have the laws here and we need to have them enforced. You know, we can't let people wander around anymore, smoking pot and drinking from open container. They're breaking the law. We have to be hard on these people so they don't come back to what they think is a lawless place. I think through beautification as well, people will understand they have to respect our city.
Okay, thank you. Ronnie, you're next.
Yeah, so again, you know, I'd like to echo what some of the other candidates and Mayor Gebler had said. You know, it's all about crime. I go Thursday, Friday, Saturday night, I go do video audits in the entertainment district, and I see it, that we have zero police uniform presence. They're all bunched up in one area. I've also heard that the video system, nobody's live monitoring the video system. Every single major police department has got a video team that's watching the video board inside of headquarters, and they're in constant communication with the street force. We have no show of force, which means that you need to have a uniform on every single street corner. You know, at the commission meeting a couple of weeks ago, we had the chief of police for Miami-Dade come in and said, we can't go zero tolerance. And I say, no way, we need to go zero tolerance. We need to rip the Band-Aid off. We need to hurt some people's feelings, and we need to make it uncomfortable for them, right? Because if we make it uncomfortable for certain segments of criminals that come here, guess what? They're not going to come here anymore. We have over a 90% case dismissal rate. So there's an issue not only with uniform policing and police presence, it's an issue with prosecution and an issue with the judicial system. So we have a complex problem that I think has a very simple solution. Just increase police presence and enforce all quality of life crimes.
Okay, and are you in favor of opening Ocean Drive to vehicles?
Oh, 100%. Open it up. Listen, the police that I speak with and my family are all police back in New York. It's very difficult to police an area that's this wide. It's much easier when people are in a much narrower corridor. And like Jean Marie said, when you know the restaurants are extended out into the street, looks very honky tonk. That ruins our culture. You know, and like Dan said, we can't have these oversized drinks with Coronas tilted inside a slush drink. That's a bad look. We need to have champagne bottles and bottle service with select tables on the sidewalk. That's what we need.
Thank you, Ronnie. Gus, your chance.
Yes, well, definitely hiring of more police officers, adding more cameras, opening up Ocean Drive, and definitely there is zero tolerance. Definitely, Jean Marie said it before, but I've stated this months and months ago. No smoking weed on our streets, no open containers, period. You get caught smoking weed inside your vehicle, it's a DUI. We're allowing this to happen. And unfortunately, they're getting away with it. If we create a one-lane northbound out of Ocean Drive, we could actually do stops and actually search vehicles and so on. And we could actually see who is drinking and driving and who is smoking weed while driving. On our streets right now, I do agree with Ronnie. We need more police officers on the beat, on every two corners, actually, what I see. And not only on Ocean Drive, we have to concentrate now. We have a bigger beach here. We have North Beach. We have, let's put in Collins, we have Washington, and now it's spilled out to Euclid, Pennsylvania. We're seeing all these crimes, people getting held up, stabbed during the daytime. On Lincoln Road, we had the stabbing a few days ago. Where was unfortunately, the police weren't there at that time, but they did scramble, got there quick. And I think they saved the person that got stabbed, if I'm not mistaken. And now, let's not forget North Beach. North Beach has actually, the crime has gone up. If you take a look, 200%. There are stabbings, there are rapings, there are, we'll talk about drag racing, we'll talk about the homeless, people being found dead in the parks. In North Beach, you know, let's not forget the rest of Miami Beach and Mid-Beach as well. Yeah.
Thank you, Gus. Just a yes or no question, since the others answered. Are you in favor of opening Ocean Drive to vehicles or not?
Yes.
You are.
Yes, I am.
And Dan, I don't think we got you on the record on that.
You know, it depends on how it's opened. I'd definitely be open to it if we had a 2 a.m. rollback, because I think the moment we open it up, you're going to see these little cars up and down it all night long. The residents who live at the north side, I'm sort of playing around with some ideas to keep some of it closed, perhaps on the north side and have one lane elsewhere, whether it's a tram lane or a full traffic lane. I think we've got to figure out. It is a law enforcement issue, but it's also, frankly, an issue that has to do with sort of what we want in the street. And remember, this is just a temporary thing because we're going to, in about 2 years, spend a good amount of money to really reimagine that promenade totally differently. And that's what the committee's working on with an architect named Ziskovich, who I think are going to do something wonderful there. But what we do in the next 20 months, I think we've got to just figure out how to tame it a little bit and not create more problems, which we have done from time to time.
Okay, let me ask one other follow-up question and start with Gus. What's your opinion about how to curtail the bad operators? You know, there's no question that we have some very good operators and some bad operators. How would you address that issue?
Well, we'll start with 3 strikes and you're out. So if you're a bad operator, we'll just put this in consideration. It just happened where you had 3 stabbings or 3 shootings or barroom brawl fights breaking out on our street. That's 3 strikes, you're out. Now, you have some existing businesses.
Let me just jump in. Who would have the power to make that decision?
Actually, we would have to pass a law on that one and be able to have a committee that would actually be able to do this. That would have to, of course, be done with the commission to vote on this.
So is it a committee or the commission, or?
It would be a commission would have to vote on this and vote on having a committee formed. So we could do we'll call it like a finding committee or 3 strikes you're out committee, we could call it.
I see. Okay, Jean Marie, yes. Same question.
Oh, through enforcement. I mean, you know, I'm sure that if I were a police officer, I could go into any establishment and find a myriad of underage drinkers with fake IDs. You know, and then when you have, I think when you have 3 violations like that on your liquor license, don't you lose it, I believe. So then it would force them to close. Okay. I think enforcement is really important for crime and also for keeping our vendors, you know, honest and responsible. I don't think it's responsible to host these kind of, you know, rampant party people. Although I don't think that the people that were clogging Ocean Drive and making such a ruckus were even patrons of those establishments. I think that they just drink liquor, open container, and they just don't care. And, you know, I think it caught us by surprise and there wasn't enough enforcement, and it's a shame.
Right. Ronnie, same question. I'm more focused on the operators and what's going on inside the establishment. So if you could address that and what your thoughts are there.
100%. So the fire marshal, the police department, code compliance, state liquor authority all have to work in unison to patrol and to monitor these establishments. You know, you can't just wantonly shut down an establishment, but you can go after them with enforcement and not to, you know, not to single out places because you don't like them. But if a place is a problem place and you see that they've got overcrowding, they have underage drinkers, they are staying open too late, they have noise ordinance issues, whatever it is, you go after them with all of the different enforcement powers through the city, the county, and the state. And like Jean Marie said, you know, if they get 1 strike, okay, it's a fine. 2nd strike, okay, it's a fine. 3rd strike, that's it, you're out of business. I mean, we've seen it happen at the place right next to the Clevelander, right? That they had a couple of strikes against them. They lost their permit to have outdoor seating. That's just the way that it goes. It's a privilege to operate a business in Miami Beach. It's not a right, it's a privilege, right? You have to get certain licenses from the county, the city, and the state. So if they do things that are going to jeopardize those licenses, guess what? Sorry, your business is going to be shut down.
Okay, thank you. Same question, Dan, for you.
Yeah, well, you know, I've had to do this, and we've done an incredible amount. But frankly, this business model that is being promoted by a lot of the operators, not all of them, but too many of them want this big business model of high volume, big drinks. And let me tell you what we've done. We got rid of the noise exemptions that were on Ocean Drive. They were there before I was mayor, and I did both those ordinances. We increased underage drinking restrictions to make it easier to go after these places for that. I'm on my 2nd new code of conduct. The first one I did was to get rid of the hawking, the commercial hawking that goes on in these places, which is just terrible. Some of them have, in fact, we've closed quite a few of them for those kinds of violations. We just recently did a new code of conduct because drinking and smoking are only allowed to be regulated by the state. We had to find way to regulate it, and we have found a way to regulate it. So I think the big drinks and the hookahs are going to be gone from those areas and frankly, Lincoln Road. We created a new code enforcement team just for this area, and we increased their size so people could go in there and actually find violations. We did ordinances on promoted parties from the moment I became mayor, because those are where so many people create street parties that are untenable. And we did ordinances on illegal charter boats, and we've been enforcing hundreds of illegal charter boat operators. Those are operators too. The point is, we could do this all day long, and we will. We'll spend enormous amounts of money, but at the end of the day, this is not a sustainable model. We cannot be a hard party destination 24 hours all the time. We got to become a live, work, play community the way the Grove and Fort Lauderdale did it, and quit this foolishness of thinking this is who we are. This is not who we are.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Dan. So continuing with this theme a bit longer on party atmosphere in the city, on the ballot in November, there's a straw vote question asking whether the current 5 a.m. closure requirement for liquor establishments should be rolled back to 2 a.m. citywide. First, are you in favor or against the 2 a.m. cutoff? Also, and this is maybe the most important part of this question, the ballot question allows for exceptions. What exceptions to the 2 a.m. cutoff, if any, do you think would be reasonable? And what process would you support when considering those exceptions to ensure that they're not adverse to nearby residents? You have 60 seconds. Oh, yeah. And Gus, you're up first.
Okay, excellent. Actually, I'm in favor for the 5 a.m. Definitely not in favor for the 2 a.m. rollback. As we know, crime doesn't happen in those times, like 2 o'clock, 2 to 6. It's all day, as I stated before. So the problem is not the 2 a.m. rollback. That will resolve the issue of our high crime. It's not going to happen that way. It just hasn't, and it won't. And they tried it in Fort Lauderdale before they actually got strict on crime and added more rules and regulations to what was going on, and they still had crime until they got tough. They hired more police officers, a better police chief that was forward-looking, and that's what resolved the issue. So this 2 a.m. and 5 a.m. is not going to take care of any kind of issues that we have. So definitely no exceptions if it's a 2 a.m. thing, because I'm not in favor of the 2 a.m. rollback. Only 5 a.m. for me, because our businesses are our businesses. We have a huge service industry, people working hard. They make tips. I mean, you have to see them. When you're involved in the community, you actually see both sides. You see the service industry side, and you also see the developer side and so on what's going on, the big money side. And these people work very hard.
Thank you, Gus.
Yes, thank you.
So Gene, are you in favor or against the 2 a.m. cutoff? And if so, and what exceptions, if any, to the 2 a.m. would you permit?
Well, I think this is wonderful that they're doing this straw ballot. I wish there was a ballot for the 48th floor tower that's going up on 5th and Alton as well. I think it's not easy to say that there's a 2 o'clock cutoff for everyone. If there were exceptions, I think the exception should be for people that have nightclubs inside, that they're, everybody's inside. For example, I understand Bikini Bar, they have people kind of, in an outdoor cafe, and it's loud for the residents of West Avenue until all hours. But whereas some place like Mango's, everybody's inside, I don't understand why that person has to be shut down. I don't think it's fair for, our government to tell a person that they can no longer have their business open. We can't blame the mismanagement of crime in our community to bars and restaurants and nightclubs that have always existed.
Okay, thank you, Gene. Ronnie?
I think the 2 a.m. closing time is one of the stupidest ideas that anybody has ever come up with for 2 reasons. Number one, if it was a countywide or a statewide thing, okay, but we have direct competition that has just exploded over the past 10 years with Brickell, Downtown, Midtown, Edgewater, Wynwood, and the Design District. If we shut down at 2 a.m. on this side of the bridge, all that we're going to do is drive hospitality dollars back over the bridge, and they're not coming back over here. And when that happens, we're going to see businesses close down. We're going to see a high vacancy rate in all of our hotels. And then when you see businesses close down, you see high vacancy rates. Guess what's going to happen? Crime is going to spike. It's a proven fact. We're not reinventing the wheel. Let's be smart about this. The other reason I think it's not an intelligent decision is that if you look at when most of the major crimes have happened, they don't happen after 2 a.m. I mean, just look at when we had during COVID, when we had the curfew earlier, we had just absolute pandemonium in the streets and everything was shut down. So the 2 a.m. for two reasons, I'm emotionally and vehemently against it. It's dumb.
Thank you, Ronnie. Dan, we'll give you the last word because we know you've been an advocate for the 2 a.m., but we're also interested in hearing what kinds of exceptions you might consider.
Yeah, well, 60 seconds is not much, so let me get to the argument. Most places are 2 a.m. or 1 a.m. This notion that we have to be open all night long and promote a 24-hour party is simply absurd. Most places in the world, in fact, most cultural cities are 2 a.m. or earlier. And in fact, many of the operators in our city support 2 a.m., including the Ocean Drive Association. Some of the bars who stay out later don't want it, but the association has supported it. It makes sense. Look at the Grove. The Grove had the same issues we had about 20 years ago, and they rolled back, but they did something else. They created a live, work, play, incentivized environment for cottage businesses, for commercial residential, you have restaurants, you have bars. It's just not an all-night party area. That's what we want. So the idea that this is somehow, going to ruin the city, it's absurd that it's going to do that. Most places are 2 a.m. And in fact, the ones that are here that are 2 a.m. do just fine. Now, with regard to the exceptions, look, hotels of a certain size, clearly, if they can queue their public inside, that seems to be fine. If there are anything with regard to safety plans, certainly we want to hear about those ideas, but certainly large hotels could continue because a hotel bar is not something that impacts the public. We should talk about this more because there's a lot of misinformation about this. And frankly,
so
a lot
Dan,
of mongering.
Dan, since the others are all pretty much against the 2 a.m., exceptions really don't come into play. So I'm going to, just because I think it's important that we know more about what the exceptions might be if you're supporting the 2 a.m., that you could maybe, I'll give you another 15 seconds to explain.
Yeah, I think, for instance, there are places where a hotel bar or a hotel club with a hotel of a certain size can do it because the queuing of the public, the people that are waiting to come in, wait inside. It's not in the streets. What we have a problem with are these all-night clubs. Look, we're projecting out to the world that if you want an all-night party, come here. And to one of my opponents who said, God, if we do this, all these people are going to go across to Miami. Please let them go. We do not need this in our city. We cannot sustain it. It is dangerous for our cops, for our visitors, for our residents. It's not working. We need another direction. And I don't think our city should be held captive to a business model that's premised on all-night drinking. And it's true, lots of stuff happened before 2 a.m., but that's because nothing else can happen here because all we have are places with all-night permits.
Thank you, Dan. Thank you, Dan.
Let's just drill down one more question on that. Dan, I'll start with you and then I'm going to ask the others.
Sure.
Look at the history of what happened in Coconut Grove, which you cite, and Fort Lauderdale, which you cite. How long after the crackdown came did the economy subside in those communities, and how long was it before they were resuscitated? And is that the model that you really want to use?
It's a great question, Saul, and I'll answer it. Both those places, Fort Lauderdale a little different because it created spring break. We didn't create this come to our city for this all night long party. We didn't promote it, at least. It just happened over time. But Fort Lauderdale created it, and the Grove just sort of meandered into it because it was an all night place. Both those places rolled back their liquor laws and promoted a live, work, play development authority, which, by the way, worked quite well. It took them some time. I don't think we're going to have any of those issues because an immense amount of people want to come here and invest in hotels and restaurants and South Beach. This is a time when we should be doing this because we have an opportunity to reimagine it. And there's plenty of people who want to develop it in that way. And so instead of some all-night bar that's serving big drinks to thousands of people, in those little cars that go up and down. It'll be a bit of more sophisticated cultural experience. Okay. That's what we should be wanting. And it's not going to take, Saul, it's not going to take 10 years or 20 years. It's going to come back pretty quickly. By the way, it's interesting. There are people who own restaurants off of Ocean Drive and on Ocean Drive. And the ones they own on Ocean Drive are not particularly reputable, and the ones off Ocean Drive are great. And my point is this area is dragging everything down. If we get rid of if we get rid of the bad operators and we create a 2 a.m. cutoff, it will be an area that people want to invest in, as they are trying to do right now.
All right, thank you, Dan. Ronnie, I'd like to hear from you on the same question. And if you could keep your answer to 30 seconds, that would be great.
Sure. So, Dan keeps on talking about Coconut Grove from 20 years ago. 20 years ago, we lived in a different world. We didn't have computers that we walked around in our hand with. We definitely didn't have Facebook, social media, TikTok. We didn't have all of these things that help to publicize and to really socialize what goes on in our city. So if there is, again, I'm going to reiterate my point. If people are in favor of 2 a.m. close down, I understand what Dan's saying, but at the same time, when you go right over the bridge and people can stay out past 2 a.m., they don't have to go home at 2 a.m. on a Thursday, Friday, or Saturday night. They're going to go there and not come here, and they're going to stay there for their hotels, and they're going to make their vacation here. Yeah, they'll come to the beach here to enjoy the sun and the sand, but they're not going to come here to use the restaurants. They're not going to come and stay at the hotels, and they're definitely not going to come here to go out at night. So we're going to lose revenue and lose businesses.
Jean Marie, I'd like to hear from you on this question of if we went down that path, how long you think it would take to head towards the mayor's vision of what he sees, and what do you see over that time?
Thanks. Well, I was actually there in the Grove when it happened, and this is what I mean by enforcement. I went to UM, and even if you would slow down to turn right at a stop sign, the guy would give you a ticket for cruising. If your windows were too dark, you'd get a ticket. If your music was too loud, you'd get a ticket. And that's what we have to do here. Regarding the 2 a.m., it's just, I think we need to get control over the illegal short-term rentals. That is the worst thing, because if the whole place closed down at 2 a.m., they'd all go right back to their apartments and open their bottles of vodka, and then it would be in the neighborhood, and that's for sure, we don't want that.
Okay, thank you. Gus, you have the last word on this.
Oh, thank you. Hey, Dan, I got a little worried about you. You turned all bright red before. You know what? We're in our infant stages right now. We could all say, all of us right now, Ronnie, Jean, Dan, and myself could say, hey, we could get this, we can nip this in the bud in the next 2 years. It takes longer than that, because once we actually do enforcement, you have to figure it's going to take at least 6 months before people get the idea that we're serious about the zero tolerance. And then from there, again, Jean Marie with the Airbnb, maybe it's a good idea to put a moratorium on it because of safety issues and overcrowding in there, because I do see a lot of that. We do manage about 24 buildings in the downtown, in the South Beach area. So I get to see this every single day. So she is right on that. They always go down the street and have another party. They're having parties in the middle on the corners that they never had before on Pennsylvania, Euclid, and so on. So we need to enforce the entire city. So.
All right, thank you very much, guys.
No problem. Anytime.
Okay. Great. Different topic. 60 seconds on this one. The funding amount approved by voters under the general obligation bond for the 72nd Street project, including a parking garage, rooftop Olympic-sized pool, community center, and a relocated library, was $53.8 million. The estimated cost for this project now has doubled to $107 million. Are you in favor of spending the additional $54 million to complete this project as originally planned, or would you be in support of changing the scope of the project to reduce cost, or even consider shelving the project entirely? Also, are you in support of selling city land to cover a significant portion of the deficit? And if so, how would you proceed with this? So first up on this is Ronnie.
So, when you talk about having a $54 million budget and the budget's almost doubled, that should tell you all that you need to know about having the city, the city's capability to actually plan and develop a project of this magnitude. I think that this project is necessary, but I also think that the scope of the project and it's too aggressive, and having the rooftop pool and the rest of this of the plans are just too large. It needs to be scaled back down, and it needs to come in under budget. And I also think that the bids that we're getting from contractors or from whomever need to be, scrutinized from top to bottom and make sure that there's no cost overruns.
Thank you, Ronnie. Gus?
Actually, yeah, I definitely don't want to be selling any more property to make up for our shortfall of money every year. That's a definite. And I would actually put it on the shelf and revisit it with the different view this time, and not be just adamant about we got to spend over 100 million and this is the way it's going to be done. That area could be used for a ton of different public uses, and we don't have to spend $110 million on that. What I do see also is who's responsible for this? Is it the city auditor, or was it the previous manager that led to all this on the finances over the years? So right away, I would like to also sit down with the city auditor, and I would also like to sit down with the city manager, Hudak, and see what they see and how much money we're in shortfall and how much money we're going to need to spend for this actually is needed. I'm sorry. Basically, those are the two things before I tackle any $110 million project. City auditor, city manager, and of course with the commission. But those two are the most important people right now because they're the ones that are managing our city and managing our funds.
Okay, thank you, Gus.
No problem.
There we go. Dan.
This was the GO bond was a resident-driven process, and 70% of voters voted for this. The cost of the construction projects, anybody who's trying to build right now knows that supply chain issues have stopped lots of places from doing any construction because it's the cost of simply trying to do something right now have become too hard. I think we probably will have to right size it in some way. We have to do it because it's a commitment to the voters, and the bonds were issued with this commitment. I do think we need to find additional money. With regard to city land, I don't think we should be selling any waterfront land, but I certainly think that if there's surplus land right now the city has, like for instance, we're moving the library, we're going to build a beautiful new library in this area. That's Collins Avenue, it's not on the waterfront. In fact, there's 3 parcels behind it on the waterfront, which should be retained for public use. I don't have a problem with selling city land at a time when prices are high. In fact, I think it would be remiss for us to at least not consider that option when you've got really high real estate rates right now. And some of that city land we're not using for anything. It's buildings that are falling apart that we don't have any use for. So for us not to test the market, if we find some funds there, some capital funds there, then we should definitely consider using them on that and other projects, certainly in the Byron Carlisle and things like that. So, I think you've got to think about this as a commitment to voters, and we need to fulfill that commitment.
Thank you. Jean, you're up next. Last.
Well, I think that garage is an impossibility. I think it's a stupid idea. I've always thought it's a stupid idea. Nobody who's in a swimsuit wants to go into an empty and desolate garage to get up to a swimming pool and swim on a roof with no trees or anything around them. It's an engineering impossibility because it could never hold the water. My daughter did water polo, and a water polo pool is not a typical depth. It's very deep because they're not allowed to touch the bottom. So it's just impossible to build what they want to build. Really, I think that we should keep that lot open just as it is. Anytime that you ever go up there and look for parking, there's plenty of parking. And you know what? With that money that we've saved, because we're not going to build the garage, I think we should perhaps build a new library on the library public lot. And I think that would be a beautiful asset to the community. The library and the lot next to it and the lots behind it on the ocean are public land. And they should stay in the public for public use. People love that library. I read my daughter's first books to them in that library years ago. And I hate to see this city just tearing every historic building out. I think it's a disgrace.
Thank you, Jean. Okay.
Okay, a few questions, maybe focusing on development now. Miami Beach has historically been a very attractive community to live and visit and invest and conduct business. Do you believe the city of Miami Beach should be or needs to provide incentives to developers to build in Miami Beach? And if so, what sector would you want to provide incentives for, and what types of incentives would you be willing to offer? Gus, we'll start with you.
Actually, it sounds funny, but I think we've given out a lot of incentives already. And this is why we're in this predicament of being in the hole for so many millions of dollars, tens of millions, God knows what it is in reality. No, actually, we need to step back, like we said, with the 72nd Street project, sit back and go over all the projects and see who is a responsible developer. Who has done right by the city? Who has brought in the money for us? Who actually pays their taxes and is not looking for tax abatements for the next 10 years? It's time to we need to start getting greedy here. We need to start saying, what are you gonna do for us, for our city? Enough is enough. We've given everything, and look at the shape that we're in right now. It's time right now to take care of our city, take care of the people that live here, and we definitely need to keep those funds. And also, let's get our credit rating. I don't know, Dan, but I don't see it as a AA rating, which is what I'm inspired to. It is?
AA plus.
Oh, it is A+.
Yeah.
All right, great. Okay. Then, all right, we're heading out the right way on that one.
Okay, Gus, can you give some specific examples of what you say that we've given too much away already? What projects are you talking about?
We're talking, let's start with West Avenue. Very easy. The project at the Baptist Hospital had practically given away to the gentleman, I forgot his name off the top of my head, the developer there. And it was meant to be built for the community. It was built to build affordable housing for city employees and all that. He reneged on that. He got sued, and I guess the lawsuit must have fell on the wayside. And now he wants to build this huge monstrosity in the middle of West Avenue. Let's make that whole thing a park. Let's create stores there. Let's create affordable housing for maybe the Coast Guard's families that are there, or our police department, fire department, even our bus drivers.
Thank you, Gus. Jean-Marie, same question. Are you interested in incentivizing development, and if so, what kind?
I think the only development that I would incentivize is restoring historic homes. And I think that perhaps already exists. I think that you can get a lot of tax breaks if you buy an existing home and restore it to its former glory. I don't know how to apply for those tax breaks. I don't think it's easy right now to apply for them. I mean, I don't think it's so public. I think it should be more available to the public. I'm not in favor of any more towers or doing anything whatsoever really to historic buildings except restoring them. In fact, I would love to make Ocean Drive a UNESCO World Heritage Site and keep it exactly as it is. Of course, how it was, in the 80s without the parklets and, a little bit more sophisticated programming there. But there's no reason why we should touch anything on Ocean Drive in regards to the architecture, except to restore the inside. New electric, new plumbing. It's a typical formula. It's not difficult. And I mean, look at the Betsy. The Betsy's spectacular.
Okay, thank you. Ronnie?
So no, I'm not in favor of incentivizing developers. I think that just, having the opportunity to develop a property here in Miami Beach is all the incentive that they need. They get a ton of free publicity with doing it. The only thing that I would acquiesce or go back on that statement is if we were to say, let's say developer is going to come in and build something, another large tower or build a development. I think we need to make it mandatory for two things: affordable housing, right? As part of so a certain percentage of their development has to be affordable housing. And let me tell you, my background is in banking. Banks, a large portion of Miami Beach are considered CRA zones, right? So banks are incentivized and they're mandated by the federal government. They have to lend in CRA zones. We could form great partnerships with major big box banks, with developers to really create affordable first-time home buyer opportunities in some of these developments. And we could even earmark them, especially for City of Miami Beach employees. So I'm in favor of that. And also, we need to have green roofs on all of these buildings. If we put green roofs on all these buildings, it's going to help to alleviate a lot of the stormwater runoff. It's going to make the city look beautiful from the sky. And it's also going to help to take a lot of the toxins and pollution out of the air.
Okay, thank you. Dan?
Yeah, well, first of all, obviously we should be providing incentives to the enhancements of museums and galleries. On the ballot this November is my item to give the Holocaust a little bit of city land so they can increase their footprint in a way that will create an incredibly better experience in one of our really most special places in our city, not the world. So I think it's easy to say, oh, I don't want to do any incentives, but on the other hand, if you think about how you can improve your community, that's a good example. I think Class A boutique offices, that will improve and diversify our economy. Now we have RFIs out for city parking lots to see if perhaps we could get some offices there that might attract a sort of a diversified economy, a knowledge-based economy, so that we're not simply, have to worry about hurricanes because we're so tourism-based. I think we should consider conversion of some of these Collins Avenue Airbnbs that are really very problematic in the entertainment district to residential and boutique offices. We did in fact get rid of a impact fee for parking if people convert some of those areas, some of those places to a Class A office or something like that. So we ought to be using our what's available to us to try to promote things that we want in our city, namely a cultural place, an artistic place, and a place that in fact advances some of these goals. So, bad ideas are bad ideas in development and good ideas are good ideas in development. And it's important to embrace the good ideas and not simply say, oh, I don't want anything to ever happen and I'm against everything. Because obviously lots of parts of our city that you love were done exactly with what you're saying you don't want.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, next question has to do with resiliency. The city has used a variety of strategies to address the impact of climate change and sea level rise. In your opinion, is the city doing the right things? Is the city doing enough? And what would you do differently? So Dan, we'll start with you because when you were running for mayor for the first time, this was an area where you felt like the city needed to do a complete reset. So yes. What do you think of where we stand?
90-second or a 60-second answer?
Yeah, it's not a 60-second answer.
I want to know what it is. I want to know what the time is on this.
We can make, if you feel like it takes more time, we can do 90 for
I think
everybody.
it's probably the most important issue facing our city.
Okay, we'll give everybody 90 seconds on this. Go ahead.
So when I became mayor, we were well into a street raising program. We were changing our stormwater system from a gravitational to a pump system. And I believe that we obviously need to do something because we see sunny day flooding in the city in various places. I did, however, believe that, it's important to always challenge yourself, to challenge your city's approach and not be afraid to hear criticisms. So I called the Rockefeller Foundation. I called them literally myself just from my office and said, I'd like to challenge our city's program to see if it's the right program. Can you help me fund an Urban Land Institute study? And anyone who's familiar with ULIs knows that you bring in about 15 or 20 experts from all over the world who basically come and look at your program to see whether it's working or not. And it can be any program that has a land implication to it. So they agreed to fund it, probably $500,000 to $1 million worth of funds. And we got a free ULI. They came down, they looked at what we did, they interviewed people, and they came back and said, your hardware solutions, your flooding solutions are actually working and you should continue with them. But you're not doing a good enough job on your green and blue. You're sort of the aesthetics and how you deal with water and grass. So we hired another firm to inform our program with those changes. And I think what we have now is a program that has been pressure tested, because if we're going to ask the public to pay this enormous amount of money and suffer what is some level of disruption, we have to make sure we get it right. So I think we're on the right track, but I think it was a good idea to get experts to look under the hood and tell us stuff, even if it might have been a little embarrassing. And they did tell us we were doing some things we need to change. But frankly, I'd rather have heard that than continue to spend an enormous amount of money and not be able to do it the right way. So I think we're on the right track.
Okay, thank you, Dan. Jean, you're up. What's your impression of how we're handling the climate change in the city of Miami Beach?
Well, I don't think it's being handled in an effective manner. In fact, I have a friend who was working at Lennar Solar, and he told me that the administration was offered a full package of solar panels for the whole convention center, and it was denied. And it was offered for free, complimentary. So I don't understand how a city can say that they want to, you know, start going green, and then they don't take the solar panel offer from a massive distributor for free, because, you know, for that distributor, it's a write-off. Anyway, there's really not been enough cohesive effort, I think, in our neighborhoods. I think that around the island, we should have a uniform seawall. I think that many people can't afford a new seawall, and perhaps, you know, because people here pay so much in property taxes, the city can take it upon themselves to raise seawalls to a certain height. I also think that there can be small things done. For example, blue and green technology. There's porous sidewalks, porous roads. You know, we can also raise sidewalks a little bit, and it won't be you know, like a debacle like it was in Palm and Hibiscus. You know, if we do things step by step, you know, it makes a big effort for the future until we get some kind of cohesive pattern in place.
Okay, thank you, Jean. Ronnie?
So I believe that you've got to transport yourself back over 100 years ago, you know, when you could basically walk from downtown Miami across Biscayne Bay to Miami Beach. You know, we dredged that. We had natural, you know, vegetation along the coast here. It was a much narrower beach at that time. And look at what we've done to it. We've torn everything out, every single system that Mother Nature had developed over millions of years to kind of adjust to the ebbs and flows of the high tides and the moon and the water. We removed all of that and replaced it all with concrete, right? And we just keep on building and putting more pavement, more of everything else. In my last answer, I spoke a little bit about having green roofs and the effect that green roofs will have on being able to retain a lot of the stormwater, a lot of the rainwater, and put it back out into the environment. Jean Marie hit on it as well. You know, having this porous concrete, porous roads. You know, there are simple things that we could do outside of trying to raise the roads up 15 feet and make it seem like you're in a Grand Prix going down West Avenue or into Sunset Harbor. There are a lot of small things that we can do that will help to improve the ecological issues, including, you know, and I love the beach, but, you know, maybe we need to have more beach grass and more palm trees on the beach to act as a natural buffer and barrier to help with some of the higher tide and some of the storm tides.
Thank you, Ronnie. And Gus, what do you think of how the city is handling climate change? And if you don't like it, what would you do differently?
Well, I'm not going to blame Dan on this one. I'm going to blame his predecessor on what is happening right now, because not even Dan could fix this. And honestly, we really need to go back and see all the failures and visit all the failures that happen. You know, when you see it every day and you live here, you actually see the failures. You see the generators bogging down and can't handle the water and so on. And then I would go in with District 6 because there was a lot of, we'll call it hearsay, between District 6 and the city. And the city did not allow District 6 to give them the full plan and be able to accomplish the full plan, let's say on Alton Road by where Walgreens is, where you have that big flooding of puddles by Whole Foods and so on. That's a great example right there. So honestly, we have to go back and visit these things and actually come up with a real good plan. Take, for instance, in my island in Greece there where we all live, well, my parents, we use turbines. We use Yamaha turbines. They're amazing. They pump out so much water. And this is an island that actually goes underwater, you know, 3-4 feet at a time. But the turbines have worked great. Their system is simple, but it's the power behind it that could actually take the water out into the ocean. That's basically it. And that's the honest truth right there.
Okay, this will be the last question. We're running a little bit over, but I think we've had some good dialogue. And this question is about the city charter prohibits increases in floor area ratio for a project unless first approved by a vote of Miami Beach voters. Floor area ratio is the maximum amount of square footage allowed for a building based on the amount of land that the project is being built on. Over the past several years on various projects, the city has chosen to vacate portions of streets or other publicly owned property and deeded that land to adjacent private property owners, having the effect of adding floor area to private developments. If elected, one, would you be willing to sponsor a charter amendment to close this loophole? And two, would you vote in favor of closing this loophole regardless of who sponsored it? We'll start with Jean Marie.
I would absolutely.
That's a mouthful. I just want to make sure everybody understands the question.
I hope I understood it right. I would absolutely close that loophole. I don't think that anyone should get excessive height because of, you know, you give them the street or a sidewalk or something. I think that's ridiculous. I also think that, you know, these glass towers aren't cohesive to green building. You know, we're getting way overbuilt. It's really too big. And I don't agree with height increases.
Okay, so would you sponsor such a question if elected? The charter question on that?
The charter says that to cancel that you can never ever.
No, to say that that vacating public land and deeding it to an adjacent private property owner would require voter approval.
Yes, I think it should never be done. But if, you know, if there has to be some kind of ruling, then I guess it should require voter approval. I don't know how they got to build 48 stories on 5th and Alton. I think it's the worst location for a 48-story building I've ever seen.
Right.
You know,
well, this is floor area ratio, which is a little different than height, but they're related for sure. Okay, Gus, same question for you.
Okay, would you be able to repeat it, even though it's gonna take away time from me? I'm sorry.
Yeah, sure. The question is, do you think that the city commission should have the power to vacate public land and deed the rights to that public land to adjacent property owners to increase the size of their development without the voters having a say-so?
No, actually, we all pay taxes. This is our beach. It's not their beach. And yeah, we definitely should close that loophole. And yes, we definitely need a voter approval on this. You know, just like we do everything else with 2 a.m. and 5 a.m., things like that. Yes, this is our beach. Mm-hmm. All right. Correct.
Ronnie, same question.
So I believe that if they need a variance or they need some sort of exception, then yes, it needs to be voted on. It needs to go through its proper procedures to and testing to see if it's suitable for our environment and the beach here. Like Gus said, this is our beach.
Okay,
this is where we live.
The question is not about variances. That's a zoning board.
It's about the floor to air ratio. I mean,
right. This is about increasing the size of development through a little bit of a.
So let me put this really quickly. I'm not for overdevelopment. I'm for keeping what we have, improving what we have, and doing it in a responsible way. Period. End of story.
Okay, fair enough. Dan?
We've talked a lot about these. Everybody seems to be using the projects at 5, 6, and 7 on West Avenue as some example of an abuse of mine. So let me just be very clear. When I became mayor, there were 4 lots, about 4 acres, with a burned out building and rat infested. And it was either going to be one of 2 things. It was going to stay the same, which is what we would be looking at today, or it was approved for 520 rental units across all 4 acres. So I essentially worked out an arrangement where I said to the developers who were going to build 520 rental units, we don't need 520 rental units. We need a park. Across the street is a building of approximate size of the buildings in the area. Why don't you build something skinny, very skinny, 25,000 square foot floor plate with half the units, approximately half the units. And instead of rental units, they're high end, so it's likely everybody will be probably not even be living there. And at the same time, build us a splendid, beautiful 3.5 acre park in an area where, frankly, nobody has a backyard. So today, instead of a burned out building in a lot with rats everywhere, you're going to have a 3.5 acre park next month. And yes, there will be a tower there, but that tower is approximate to the size of the same, of many of the buildings in the same area. It fits the scale of that area. And it doesn't take one. So my view is we haven't abused this process. If this is the poster child for making a change, I do not support a change because this was not an abuse in any way. We will be opening up a beautiful park next month instead of looking at a rat-infested building. That's
okay, so you're saying
I don't think we need a charter amendment. We have not abused this. Nobody's given me an example of an abuse.
Okay.
Even, by the way, Miami Beach United typically says, we don't like the process, but we like the project. That's not a basis to change something.
But the charter, Dan, the charter says the decision is up to the voters, not up to the commission.
By the way, our legal department tells us exactly.
Of course, you can get a legal opinion to say anything.
Oh, if you want to debate it, I'm happy to debate it. But somebody's got to tell me that project on 5th, 6th, and 7th was a stupid idea, that the park is not a good idea, and that they prefer to have the South Shore Hospital there with its burned out buildings and an empty lot, which it was for the 10 years before I was mayor. I wanted to fix that, and I'm proud of how we are fixing it. And frankly, I'm going to be really happy when I see families using that park, which is our park and no one else's, next week or the week after when it opens up. So I don't think we have a problem, and I feel comfortable with how we've complied with the charter.
Okay, thank you. We're now ready for closing statements. 1 minute for each candidate, and we'll start with Gus.
Okay. All right. I definitely want to be your mayor. And the reason really is I'm here to serve you and help you. Nothing more. That's all I am. I'm a servant. I'm going to look out for the best for the city. Its residents definitely are going to be first. Businesses will be following on that. And that's all I have to say. You know, it's the love of my city, and I'm here to serve the community. Nothing more. And I'm not beholden to anyone. There's no special interest groups behind me or any PACs or any of that. So I could basically say no. Well, as a weak former mayor, I could say no, but I'll definitely get the commission on board. I know how to lead, and I could definitely get a commission together to vote the right way for the city and for the best interest of the people.
Okay, thank you. Dan?
Thank you.
Thank you all. Thank you to Miami Beach United. I think you perform an important function in our community, including this one. Look, it's the only city I've ever wanted to live in. It's the only city I've ever wanted to raise my kids in. We've done a lot of very good things in the last 4 years, in the parks, in culture, in our schools. We've done a whole lot in terms of, even public safety. When I became mayor, the first thing I did was a GO bond that put $75 million into license plate readers, and cameras. We're going to have 1,000 camera views almost, so we can see everything happening in the city. We've increased the size of the police. We've done all these other things, but this entertainment area has to go. It's not working for our city. And I just think we have to come to that realization. It's unsustainable. But I love this city. And I will say this, I've tried to be available. I am honest. I'm not in anybody's pocket. I really think that saying those kinds of things in a public debate are, if you don't have, really demean what we do and what we care about. And I would never say that about one of my opponents, in a cavalier way. I have tried to run commission meetings in a respectful way. I've tried to be available to residents, and I've tried to address every single issue when they come up. It's the reason why you can call me anytime you want. And I get calls sometimes at 3 in the morning when people are really angry about something, like an unexpected closure. I think you can trust me to make hard decisions, and I'm not afraid to upset people, even the most powerful bar owners in the city, because if I think it's the right thing to do, I'm going to do it for our residents. That's the only lens I have, is what is best for our city and the people that live here. So I appreciate your support of the last 2 elections. This is my final term. I look forward to completing some things and getting out of this damn pandemic. But I'd ask for your support on November 2nd. Thank you very much for your attention.
Okay, thank you, Dan. Ronnie?
So first of all, thanks again for holding this tonight. It's been good to get to hear from some of my opponents and see their points of views and see how some of the things we think alike on, some of the things we don't think alike on. My entire life, I always wanted to live in Miami. I grew up during the 80s, and a very good friend of my family, Vinny Testaverde, played football at University of Miami. Miami Vice was popular on TV, Gloria Stefan. I can remember coming down here as a teenager and seeing University of Miami play and falling in love with Miami at that time and saying I always wanted to live here. 2012, I had the opportunity to move here. Thank God, I was very fortunate. And I've never wanted to live anyplace else besides Miami Beach outside of New York. This is home. This has been home. And I want to keep it as home. But the thing that's made me really upset, and the reason why I got into this race, is that during COVID, right, we saw so many companies and so many people relocating from the Northeast. And I can think of just one that decided to come and set up shop here in Miami Beach. Everybody else went to Fort Lauderdale, they went to Midtown, they went to Brickell, they went to downtown. No other major companies and not a lot of people were publicly moving down here to Miami Beach. So we need to change that. And the way to change that most effectively, okay, is to clean up the entertainment district and to change the culture of the entertainment district. And if anybody wants to see how to change the entertainment district, just meet me Thursday, Friday, or Saturday night around 11:30 by the clock outside of the Cleveland there in Ocean 10, and we can walk up and down, and you can ask me any question that you like, and you'll see that I'm the best mayor candidate for the city of Miami Beach.
Okay, thank you, Ronnie. And last is Jean Marie.
Yes, I think that 48-story tower at 5th and Ocean is a debacle. It's not progress, it's chaos. Why couldn't there be a 30-story building on 7th Street and the park at 5th and 6th? When that building is done, all we're going to be left with is overflowing sewage pipes because our infrastructure can't even handle that size right now, and also rampant traffic. As it is, you can't get that through that light. The light takes 3 times to change to go south of 5th. It's ridiculous that that building is allowed there. Furthermore, I want to say, in the history of Miami Beach, a sitting mayor has never taken such a beautiful city into such depths of decline. Let's hold Dan Gelber accountable for his mismanagement, misdeeds, and his inability to protect residents from violent crime and rampant drugs on the streets and on the beaches. I want to work for you, the residents. I will focus on making our city safe and beautiful again. Residents and family, for me, are #1. It's time for a change.
Okay, thank you, Jean. I'm going to turn it over to Tanya, who is going to take us out, I think. Do you have any closing remarks, Tanya?
I do. I want to thank you and Ron for being such diligent moderators, and Gayle for being a good timekeeper despite not being in person. But I really want to thank all the candidates who participated today, taking the time out of your week to prepare and to be here. Spirited discussion. I know everybody who's running does so because they care about the city, and on that, at least, I think we can all agree. So for everybody out there in TV land, thank you very much for tuning in. As I said, this debate will be up on our website. Excuse me, this forum will be up on our website in a few days. And please don't forget about our forum on Wednesday of this week about bringing more great tech jobs to South Florida in conjunction with Mayor Levine Cava, Mayor Suarez, and our own Mayor Gelber. So we'll sign off for now, but we'll see you in a couple days. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you,
everybody.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.